On July 2025, we have another eruption of the volcano on Barren Island in the Indian Ocean. But this time, it lasted for only about an hour. So here is a time-lapse of the eruption, which started around 1840 UTC. Here is our island. This is Barren Island in the Indian Ocean, and right now, there are no clouds covering the summit. And we see the eruption starting at the summit. We can see that very well in this camera angle. That's our first lava fountain. It looks like it might be very explosive, but the camera is not showing us anything right now. Here is the second lava fountain. Now, we also start to get some incandescence on the flanks of the volcano. These are pyroclastic flows which are racing down the flanks. They are going to reach the ocean. We know that because we have satellite imagery available. Here is one of these pyroclastic flows reaching the ocean. We can see that from the satellite imagery. We're now zooming into the summit, and you can see that the lava fountains are coming up here and there. The gas is probably water vapor and carbon dioxide, which has been dissolved in the magma chamber over the past 2 years and now gets released when the pressure drops. And you can see very well how the fountains are coming up and how they are connected with these little explosions, these little ash explosions. And sometimes we also see lava flows coming out of these cracks in the lava lake. You can see them here and there. Now, you might wonder what the difference between a lava lake and a lava fountain is. A lava lake is more or less just that. It's a lake of lava, something similar to a crater lake, but filled with molten rock instead of water, and it can be very calm. Now, a lava fountain is more or less a geyser. So you have gas that has been dissolved in the magma chamber. When the pressure drops, it suddenly erupts and creates these fountains of lava. And if you see both together, we are seeing now, then you know you have an active magma chamber. Now, when we look at the summit, we can see these different lava fountains. We can also see how the lava is spilling over the crater rim, creating these little lava flows on the flanks. And we will come back to these lava flows later on in the video. Right now, the lava fountains are getting a bit weaker. However, they are still ongoing. And we're going to follow this eruption for a little longer until it ends. But before we do that, let's take a look at the location of the island. Barren Island is located in the Indian Ocean, south of the country of Mauritius and east of Madagascar. There are a lot of islands in this region, but most of them are not independent islands. Many of them are part of the Mascarene Islands, which themselves are a part of Mauritius. Some of these islands are, however, independent. These are uninhabited islands and some of them are nature reserves. For example, this one here. But Barren Island is not part of Mauritius. It is an Indian territory, an Indian island. And although it has been known since 1305, it was only officially discovered by Europeans in 1642. It got its name from the fact that nobody lived there. It was barren. It has a population of seabirds, but no humans. And even though it is now a volcanic island, it has coral reefs surrounding it. So it must have formed after the last ice age. It's not certain when exactly the island emerged from the ocean, but based on geological data, scientists think it happened sometime around 130,000 years ago. The island is today 623 square kilometers in size. It's nearly 35 kilometers long and up to 8 kilometers wide. The highest peak on the island is the Volcano, which is 381 meters high, and the volcano itself is actually relatively young. The oldest rocks found so far on the island are only about 150,000 years old, whereas the youngest are only 2,000 years old. And the current eruption started only 2 years ago in September of 2023. The island has a long history of eruptions, but many of them don't reach the surface. They are so-called quiet eruptions. They are effusive eruptions. Magma comes up from below and simply creates new land. The volcano has been erupting very frequently over the past 2,000 years. In 2007, we had an eruption. Then again in 2015, there was a series of small eruptions followed by one major eruption. But this one here, this one started in 2023, and it hasn't stopped. So let's go back to our webcam images from July 2025. And right now, we see the lava fountains are becoming a little bit weaker, but they are still ongoing. We have a lot of gas emissions from the summit here. And we also have, of course, these pyroclastic flows that are running down the sides. We have lava flows that are flowing down the sides. And all of this makes the island a little bit bigger. We can see that very well on this image. This is from July 2023, when the eruption started. And this is from July 2025. Already a lot has changed. We have a lot of new land that has formed in the past 2 years. And now, the fountains are becoming a little bit weaker, and eventually, they stop. There is still a lot of steam coming off the summit. We can also see here, and there a little bit of glowing material, which means that there are still some little explosions happening. But the major part of the eruption seems to be over. The last time we saw a similar thing happen was in May 2025. And at that time, it took 2 days until the next eruption started. So we might have another pause now. However, the chances are that we will see another eruption tonight. So we are going to wait a little bit and see what happens. But let's go back to these pyroclastic flows and lava flows. We can see them very clearly on this image. We have the pyroclastic flows here, and we also have lava flows that are going all the way down the sides here, and here. This is very interesting because we can see how they changed the shape of the island. If we pull this timeline forward, you can see that the island becomes a little bit wider. You can see the pyroclastic flows ending in the ocean. We can see that very well on the satellite image. These are the pyroclastic flows. And these are the areas that were hit by pyroclastic flows in the latest eruption. And you can see that they're going into the ocean. They're going to form new land. The areas that are glowing red hot are areas where the temperature is above 1000 degrees Celsius. The areas that are glowing yellow are between 600 and 1000 degrees Celsius. And the areas that are glowing green are between 300 and 600 degrees Celsius. So all of this is going to create new land. And when we pull the timeline forward, we can see that the island is becoming wider. It's becoming a little bit longer this way. And these lava flows are forming new land. So the island is growing in size. We can see that very clearly on this image here. This is the coastline of the island in September of 2023, when the eruption started. And this is the coastline in July of 2025. And it has become a little bit wider. And if we put these two images side by side, then you can see the difference very well. There is a lot of new land which has been formed in the past 2 years. And it's interesting to see how much new land can be formed in such a short time span. We also saw something similar on the island of La Palma in the Canary Islands. There, the Cumbre Vieja volcano erupted and formed new land. But the eruption on Barren Island is still going on. And I am sure we are going to see more changes in the future. If you want to support my work, then please consider supporting me. Also check out my social media. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.